So let me get this straight. You bought an IKEA Detolf display case, and now you've noticed that the bottom shelf is just too low to the ground, and you get the feeling that you're just not getting the most out of your display case. You've seen some amazing display setups, and now you're ready to upgrade yours. And the only thing holding you back is knowing what's available. So in this video, I'm gonna go over the most popular display case risers that you can buy. I'll go over how to reinforce them because the last thing you want is that small piece of furniture underneath your display case to collapse. And I'll talk about how to mod them, such as adding doors and drawers and adding adjustable floor leveling for uneven floors, and add measures to prevent them from sliding off in case someone bumps into them or when the ground starts to shake. Then we're going to go over how to build your own low-cost display case riser. We're going to review how I built my custom display case riser. Then we're going to discuss other custom options, such as building a more expensive riser or buying a custom riser instead of building. And lastly, how to avoid display case risers altogether. But before we can talk about any of this, we're going to need to talk about the specs of the IKEA Detolf. Now, these display cases are 75 pounds a piece, and they don't look it, but they're heavy. So that means it's 150 pounds for 2, 225 pounds for 3, and a whopping 300 pounds for 4 Detolfs. And these weights will become more relevant when I start talking about the weight limits of furniture that you want to stick under them. Also, the Detolf is around 17 inches wide and around 15 inches deep. Now, starting off with one of the most popular risers that I've seen people use, we're going to go over the IKEA KALLAX shelving unit. And we're going to look at the 1x1 and the 4x1 options, since the grid KALLAX shelves really don't work for us, and the 5x1 shelves seem to have gone MIA. Now, looking at the 1x1, the top dimensions are 16.5 inches wide and 15 3/8 inches deep. Also note, since I didn't mention them, the 2x1 dimension shelves are 30 3/8 inches wide, which isn't wide enough to support 2 Detolfs, and is just a bit too wide to support 1 Detolf unless that's the look you're going for. And the 4x1 KALLAX is about 58 inches wide and is wide enough to fit 3 Detolfs on it. Now, putting these all together is pretty straightforward. I have a 1x1 KALLAX shelf here, and this is what you get. You get 4 boards and some screws, and that's basically all there is to it. Putting it together is pretty quick and easy, since it really isn't that complicated to put 4 boards and some screws together. However, one major callout is the KALLAX shelves are made out of particle board, which is a very weak material made up of compressed wood chips and resin. Now, this is where the risk comes in. The 1x1's unit max weight is 29 pounds, but a single Detolf is 75 pounds without figures, so the Detolf is heavier than what the KALLAX is meant to support. Now, the 4x1's max weight is outlined at 66 pounds, but with 3 Detolfs, that would mean it would need to support 225 pounds. I think you're able to see what I'm getting at here. You're either going to need to start taking your KALLAX to the gym, or you're going to have to start pumping it full of steroids to safely support the weight we're going to ask it to bench press. Essentially, there's no furniture designed to support the weight of these display cases. That's basically because these display cases are meant to sit on the floor and not on another piece of furniture. But let's see what we can do to defy physics. The 2 main ways that a KALLAX will fail is one being that the top board cracks and breaks under the weight, but with the Detolf's weight being distributed across the horizontal beams, it should be fine. Keyword being should, which makes the biggest risk being lateral displacement. And if you're a record collector using your KALLAX shelf to store your vinyl, you may be familiar with this. But if you're not, just Google KALLAX shelf collapse and see the pain that some record collectors have suffered. So how do we address this lateral collapse? We have 3 simple options to reinforce the KALLAX shelf. The first and best option, reinforce the back plate with a full slab of wood or another strong material. Basically take a board like plywood, cut it, paint it, and screw it to the back of the KALLAX shelf. Even if you have a half a sheet, you can run it across the top and then reinforce the bottom, and it would greatly help. But I understand that not everybody has the means to transport and cut a sheet of wood to make this happen. So the second option, and cheaper option, is to buy L brackets like these and reinforce the corners of the shelving unit. How to do that? I'll show you since I have these L brackets right here and a newly built 1x1 KALLAX shelving unit that you saw me build earlier. First, I'd recommend pre-drilling holes for your screws prior to screwing in the brackets. This will help prevent the screws from splitting or cracking any of the particle board. Then we just screw in the brackets. The longer the screw, the better. And as you can see, it's pretty easy to put all together. And to test it, it seems to magically support my weight of 150 pounds. Okay, don't do that. While it doesn't feel like it's going to tilt sideways, it does feel like it's going to crack in the middle when I stand in the middle, which is something we already knew. Now, the third option can be done in parallel to the first 2, and that's installing drawers and doors to the KALLAX shelf. I highly recommend doing this because it makes the display case riser look nicer. But what it does is line the inside of the shelf with this thin wood lining, which is screwed into the shelf itself, which makes the shelf slightly more firm. And this is how it looks when it's installed. Now, this shelf looks really good, and it gives you a little bit of extra storage, which is awesome. Now, to finish this, you can just sit the KALLAX unit on the floor, but sometimes your floors are uneven. IKEA also sells adjustable foot pegs from the IKEA product line, which you can easily install from the bottom of the KALLAX. I just happen to have a bag right here, so this is how you would install them. You're just basically screwing them to the bottom of the KALLAX shelf. But you can pick up a wide range of other options at your local hardware store. Either which way, this should help you level your display case riser. Now, I live in an earthquake zone, so there's always a risk of the Detolf sliding off that display case riser. First, I would recommend not installing the Detolf's plastic foot pegs so that the display case sits flat and has more points of friction. But even then, the smooth bottom surface of the Detolf on the smooth top surface of the KALLAX shelving unit, well, it's going to be pretty easy to slide off. You could put weak two-sided tape between the two. I would recommend not using a strong two-sided tape because you'll never be able to separate them once you get them together. Or another option is you can use a non-slip rubber pad, which should add enough friction to reduce the risk of it sliding off. What I have here is some 3M anti-sliding rubber floor protector tape that I taped to the top of my display case riser. It works pretty well at making the Detolf not slide around. However, it's not perfect, but better than nothing. And if you're really worried about it sliding off, just bolt your Detolf into the wall. Now, using a 1x1 KALLAX shelf for one Detolf is probably your safest option, and it makes it easy to move around in the event that you move and don't have space for a 4x1 unit. But ultimately, the 4x1 KALLAX will save you money if you want to line up 3 display cases together, but it's not going to be as strong as having multiple 1x1s. Anyway, a lot of these tips will help improve other display case risers that I'm about to go over. Now, the next display case riser that I've seen people use is also an IKEA product, and that is the IKEA BESTA product line, either the frame, the shelving unit, or the TV stand. It's a bit shorter than the KALLAX, but it's also a bit more sturdy. And like the KALLAX, it comes with a wide range of doors and drawer options, if you're looking for them. The single cell can hold 1 Detolf, the dual cell can hold 2 Detolfs with some space to separate them, and the 3 cell can hold 4 Detolfs with not a lot of wiggle room. And as you can see, the Detolfs still exceed the weight limits, so reinforcement is still recommended to prevent lateral collapse. And you may need to use a different L bracket that is screwed on the inside since the BESTA already comes with a backplate. I'd also avoid using the BESTA unit that has 4 legs, or just not use the legs and sit the stand flat on the ground so that the weight is evenly distributed across the ground more evenly, because I don't think the legs are going to support 300 pounds if you put 4 Detolfs on a 3-cell unit. Anyway, moving on to some custom options. Our first custom option is probably the cheapest, and that is attaching some third-party furniture legs at the bottom of the Detolf, or on a strong piece of wood. Personally, I would bolt these to a sheet of wood and set the Detolf on top of it. But what is this? Well, if you search on Amazon furniture legs, you're gonna get a wide range of options. But I picked up these 7-inch legs right here, and there are different sizes available. And this is what they look like in the flesh. And this is how the display case riser looks when I'm done. It's actually not that bad to look at. Now, how did I put this together? Well, I took a sheet of wood, I cut it 17 inches wide and 14.5 inches deep, I painted it, I pre-drilled some holes, and then I screwed in the furniture legs. And then I threw on some 3M tape on top of it to prevent it from sliding. It's super simple, but these legs are meant to hold up a sofa with people sitting on them, so it's pretty strong. And technically, you can use a longer board to fit more Detolfs. But if you do, please use a Sagulator app like this one, where you can insert the type of wood, the size, and the load weight. And it would tell you how much sag the wood would receive under a hypothetical weight, or also give you an indication that it would break. So I suggest checking that out if you're going to build your own display case riser. And if you do decide to screw the furniture legs directly into the Detolf, there's 2 things you need to look out for. First, line up your screws so they don't screw into the glass. And second, measure the lengths of your screws so they don't screw through the bottom shelf. And lastly, these legs that I picked up have a hole in the bottom, where I can get creative with installing floor levelers to support uneven floors. But I'm not going to go over it in this video, but essentially you just take 2 nuts, one above and one below, and thread the adjustable floor leveler through them like this. Now, if you see my room tour, you would know that I built my own display case riser. Basically, I put together a platform for 2 Detolfs. And this is how I did it. Well, I started off with a blueprint. Impressive, I know. Let's see if I can clean this up a bit, in the event that you want to follow in my footsteps. Now, once I figured out what I was going to build, I, with the help of my neighbor, put it all together with some leftover wood that I had lying around. And this is what the unpainted product looked like. And to show you the insides, this is how I reinforced it. Basically with 2x4s supporting the external boards. And ultimately, after painting them, this is how they turned out. And I do want to note that the Detolfs sit inside my custom riser, so there's no chance of them sliding out since they're walled in. Also note, I built these risers to support Detolfs with foot pegs installed. You could build them to not have the foot pegs, but you would need to lower the wall or the Detolf doors will not open. Going this route is probably the safest bet on raising your display cases, and they do look very professional, but I know with the cost of wood, it can get a little pricey, because building these will not be cheap. Also recommend, if you can't build these yourself, ask a family member, or contract someone locally to build them for you. Now, another custom option is to build your own KALLAX shelving unit with stronger wood, meaning not particle board. But for the sake of the length of this video, I'm not going to go over this, but I'm going to point you to Veers' MFC guide on how they created their own display case riser. And one thing you could do is ensure that the cubby dimensions match that of the IKEA KALLAX, and just buy and install the KALLAX doors to save you time and money. And now my last option, which is probably the most expensive option, you can buy hand-built risers from someone online. For example, there's a shop on eBay that sells Detolf bases that look pretty good, and are built in a way that the Detolf sits flush in the base and can't slide off. A downside, however, is they're a bit expensive, and based on the weight, the shipping would probably cost a bit too. But it's another option. Now, all this may seem like a hassle, and with the IKEA Detolf increasing its price to $129 per unit, perhaps picking up the IKEA Millsbow, which comes with legs that already lift it off the ground, is a better option. These obviously cost more, around $300, but they're also wider than a Detolf and much nicer. They have adjustable shelves and a frame that you can hide your LED light strips. This is a good option if you don't want to deal with display case risers. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below. And as always, I hope to see you all again soon and take care.